Hi, how's it going? Thanks so much for joining me. So today I'm filming my mid-year favorites from January to June and my daughter's mid-year favorites from January to June. So I also am going to share with you guys, in case anyone's interested, maybe no one, but my favorite TV shows and like media kind of stuff that I've been liking so far this year. And I'm just going to go ahead and get started. And I'm also drinking a Topo Chico mineral water right now. It is so hot in Texas. Oh my gosh. So I want to show you guys. This is my book journal. I showed this on my Instagram. This is a photo of me reading when I was like 2 years old in my aunt's driveway. We call them carport. And like literally I'm sitting on a beach towel just in the middle of a dirty driveway. Reading a bunch of books. I see a Richard Scarry book, and yeah, so I loved books when I was even a little kid. I just put this in here. Okay, so basically from January to June so far in 2024, I read 21 books. And I would say that's like okay for me. It's been kind of a slow year. And I've kind of been in a lot of reading slumps throughout the months. And I want to show you guys one of my favorite books I'm going to tell you guys about is a book that is an author that got me out of my 2024 reading slump. But all of the books I'm going to share with you guys are my favorite books. I didn't include all of my 5-star books from that list. I just included my very, very favorites. That I've read so far, which is a total of, I believe, 7 books, including my favorite picture book of the year. So let me go ahead and get started and show that to you guys. And I'm going to do the media stuff last. If anybody's interested, I have my favorite songs, my favorite TV shows and movies like I'm kind of looking forward to and stuff like that. I like listening to people's favorites when they talk about their favorite movies, TV shows. I always get ideas, so hopefully someone might be interested. Okay, so the first book I have to show you guys is nonfiction. It is The Healing Power of Tears, The Art of Crying. It's like Pepita Sandwich is the author. So this book, I just finished this month. And it's basically it's like an illustrated, I don't know if you call it like a graphic novel or just like an illustrated book. It's kind of a memoir, but it's kind of like nonfiction. It has all these like facts about tears and crying and emotions and things like that. And then it has like the author's kind of perspective on like her crying history and things like that. And it's really interesting. I really loved it. I'm a really big advocate for myself and for other people for expressing their emotions in any way. I love emotional books. And yeah, so it was just a beautiful read. I even love this. It's like a crying license. You know, your name, favorite place to cry, favorite crying movie, things like that. I'm also planning a whole video on I've already done one video, I think, on emotional books. So I plan on doing another one soon. Okay, so the next book is literary fiction and is Foster by Claire Keegan. It's a very, very short novel. I've definitely showed all of these books before, of course, in hauls and in, previous, like what I read at the end of the month, but this is my mid-year favorite. So this book, I hesitated reading it because, I don't know, I just thought, it's just so short and I really like longer novels and oh my gosh, it's such a strong, powerful written book in such a small amount of words. I don't know if you call it a novella or it's just like a short novel, I'm not sure. But basically it's about this little girl who her family takes her to live with these other relatives on a farm. It says, and so she won't know when she'll be back home. And so the home she lives in, she finds affection and warmth she has not known, and slowly in their care begins to blossom. So, and then it's the emotions and what's going to happen, how long will she stay there, the comparison, of this home compared to her, birth home or whatever. And so it's just very very emotional and very deep, and the ending is very interesting. It's just a really powerful, interesting read. I think I've used that word twice, but the author definitely is very talented at writing like a short novel, because it's like I'm not like a big short story reader, so for me to just like really love like a very very short novel says a lot, because I really like longer novels, where you get to like really like have more character development. But this has a lot of like, it just has so much emotion in such a short book, and it's definitely one of my favorites of the year, and it'll probably definitely make my end of year favorites also. And it's just a very, if you like books about the emotional well-being of a child, kind of, it's not really like a coming of age because it's such a short time period in her life, but it's kind of like that in a way, a coming of age, like a very very short slice of life type of like coming of age type book. And she's technically not an orphan, but it kind of has that feeling to it. And then it also kind of like, I just really related to it, like on like her level, like the childhood level, like of not really, of just like how your home life, like they're like when you reflect on your home life or whatever. And I don't even know how much she's really reflecting, but as reading it, like you're comparing and reflecting on what's being told to you about her parents and then about this other couple. And it's like just the comparison, and I just really had a lot of empathy for her, and also resonated a lot with me from my own childhood, different things. Loved it. Okay, so the next book was, so I also looking forward to reading more work by her. This is Eileen by Ottessa Moshfegh, if I'm saying that correctly. I read two of her books in 2024. I read Eileen and I read My Year of Rest and Relaxation. So I gave them both 5 stars, but the books that make my favorites list and that I purchased, because I bought Eileen, I had originally read from the library, are books that I want to reread again and again. And that's how I pick favorites, because I'm a big rereader. It is about this loner, I'm going to call her a loner, named Eileen. She lives with her alcoholic father in a home. It says a home whose squalor is the talk of the neighborhood, and her day job is a secretary. She works as a secretary at a boys' prison, and she dreams of escaping. So she then she meets this like woman named Rebecca, who is like works at the prison, and she wants like to be friends with her. And it says it has like it has like a twist at the end, but honestly that's not really why I liked it. It does have a twist at the end, but like a kind of like a crime-ish type twist that Elaine is kind of involved in, kind of not. But anyway, I really like this book because it's very interesting from the perspective of Eileen. Did I say Eileen? Okay. It's very interesting from her perspective because it's very crass, it's very raw, it's very gritty, it's very unique. This is how Ottessa, I've noticed the 2 books I read by her, how she writes. Like, she really has like an edge to her female protagonist, and in the sense that she doesn't hold back, and she lets them just be kind of raw and gritty. And it's kind of like, wow, did I just read that? And it's like refreshing to read a woman's perspective from that point of view, I think. And like, she's not like, I'm not saying like all literature, all female protagonists are prim and proper. That's not what I'm saying at all. But she just has a very unique way of like writing this perspective of Eileen, and the details that she shares with you as a reader. It's like, wow, did she just share that? It's just it really was like, I was like, wow. It's just hard to explain without reading it. But like, she just details all these like kind of crass things, and it's just very very odd. And so I'm all for like weird. I like weird girls, I like loners, I like outsiders, and I really related to Eileen's kind of like desire to like, she like kind of wants to be more sociable, but then I don't know if I'd call her an introvert. I mean, I guess maybe, but she's kind of introverted, I think, due to her family circumstances, because her family circumstances, like the way she's treated by her father and the way she was treated, and like she doesn't have like social skills, and it's like she's just a very unique character. That's definitely one of my mid-year favorites. Okay, so now this is a reread. This is Anne of Green Gables out in Montgomery. I have 2 rereads for you guys. And so I wanted to reread it, and I did, and I really loved it. And I'm not going to talk too much about this one because it's a classic, and a lot of people are pretty much familiar with it. You know, there's been a TV show, which I loved, Anne with an E. I actually rewatched that this year. So, Anne with Green Gables, I really like the character development in the book. I really like, you know, she's an orphan. I love that kind of story, the coming of age type of story. I love how she's so interested in like nature. I love reading about the stuff that happened long ago, like the way that people, you know, handled mail and cooking and things like that. I like the contrast of between like my living in modern life and then reading about stuff that happened, you know, back then. I think it's very interesting. It was such slow living, and I just really like stuff like that. So that's part of what drew me in to this novel and made it one of my mid-year favorites. So basically, I also really like Miss Rachel Lynn, who's a character who I really didn't like the first time I read it. I thought she was just like a busybody and kind of rude. And she's crass, but she's like well-meaning. I really got to look at her from a different perspective. Also, Marilla. I really liked Marilla much more the second time I read it. Okay, so I also wanted to mention, since it is one of my mid-year favorites, that I was so excited after I reread this book that I purchased the whole book set. And I read about halfway. I read about halfway in the whole series, and I just stopped. I think after the 3rd book, so I did read like 1 through, I read like half of the books, but I kind of really liked the 2nd one and the 3rd one in the series. But I really started to really hardcore lose interest once Anne pretty much left college. And I just let myself DNF the entire series because I just was like losing interest more and more. And I just could not get into it anymore. But I will say that it was worth, like, if you're interested in reading the whole series, like, go ahead and try it. But nothing compares to the first one, in my opinion. I'm sorry. Like, I think it could be a standalone novel. It is a series, but I think, if it was just a standalone novel, it would be fine. And it's a series, and I was hoping I would like the whole series, but I didn't. Okay, so this is another reread. Now, this is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. So I actually read this, over 20 years ago, if not more. This was an assigned read when I was in college. So I really had a different perspective the first time I read it. The first time I read it, it was so long ago that I just forgot a lot of stuff. I watched the series. It's like a 6-part series. I actually just watched that this week. I really loved it. And so I'm actually going to go ahead and rewatch the movie now since I read the book. But anyway, so what I gathered out of this book, what made it a 5-star read for me and like a mid-year favorite for a reread, because it felt like I was reading it for the first time because it was like 20 years ago. What I really enjoyed about it, and again, it's a classic, so I'm not going to talk too much about it. Almost everyone knows the story, about Elizabeth Bennet and Mr. Darcy. But it was really an exploration in character, it was like a character study. It was really interesting, the character development I got out of, I got out of it. I really, learned all the differences between her and her siblings, her parents, the distinct personality of her mom, her dad, and Mr. Darcy. I feel like I understood him more. I feel like it's almost like psychological. It really explores the differences in people and personalities and the psychology of why people do the things that they do and things like that. It's really much deeper than I think what I took before I reread it was like, oh, it's like a love story, you know, between Elizabeth and Mr. Darcy, kind of. But it's like much more than that. It's like way more layered and deeper. And I got a lot out of it regarding that. And also like the title, like Pride and Prejudice, like about like his pride and her prejudice, in my opinion. And so why she felt the way she did and why he kind of acted the way he did. A lot of questions that kind of like remained, you know, for me after the first read. So I really cleared things up and I really enjoyed it way more the second read. I really loved it. Okay, you guys, the book that got me out of my reading slump is The Girl Who Speaks Bear by Sophie Anderson. So this is a middle grade fiction. I would say for 2024 so far, this book and Foster are my two top favorites. I don't know which one I'd pick as number one, but this book and Foster are my two favorites. So, The Girl Who Speaks Bear. So I discovered Sophie Anderson recently. This is about a 12-year-old girl who is like, she's discovered in a bear cave as a baby. And then like the other children that she lives in a village, they kind of make fun of her. And she wants to find out why she was left in the bear cave and like who she really is. She lives with this old woman that takes care of her, kind of like a grandmother figure. Not giving anything away by saying at some point in the book, she finds out her legs turn into bear legs. So it's like has magical elements, fairy tale elements. And if you guys know me, I'm a big realistic fiction person. So for me to get so involved and love a middle grade so much that it's magical and fairy tale-ish says a lot about the book. The writing is really good. It really draws you in. Oh my gosh, like that's what snapped me out of my reading slump, because Pride and Prejudice was a very slow read for me. You know, it's a classic. Anne of Green Gables was a little bit faster, but Eileen and Foster are also really great. I read those more in the beginning of the year. So the past few months, I've really been like a reading slump. I've really almost felt depressed about it. Like I just was like not like my top favorite books of all time. I'm like in it from the first page. I'm like, oh my gosh, like let's go. And that's how it was with this book. So I really love the fairy tale elements. I really love the mystery of it, of like she really keeps you guessing, and along with the protagonist who's trying to find out what's going on. Why is she half bear? Like why is she turning into a bear? Why is she found in a bear cave? You know, all these things add up, and then finding out in the end the whole mystery of it. And then there's like all these tidbits along the way about like life and like kind of like coming of age again. And so also the forest is called the Snow Forest. It's like very enchanting. She also has like relationships with animals and things like that. And this is like a map. And I also read Sophie Anderson's other book, which is the first one that she wrote, The House with Chicken Legs. A House with Chicken Legs. And that book is also intertwined in this book. And I thought that was really interesting how she's weaving the worlds together. But this book was my favorite out of those two by far. And this one I definitely will be rereading. It's just a really, really beautiful story. Really enchanting. And like I said, it has like fairy tale vibes to it. It's phenomenal. Now, I have the last book for me is a picture book. Then I'm going to show you guys my media list. And then I'm going to show you guys my daughter's favorites, which are mostly, as you guys know, she reads middle grade and YA. Mostly mythology type books and fantasy. So this is my favorite picture book that I discovered in 2024. It's K.G. Campbell, The Mermaid and the Shoe. I've showed this book before, but it definitely made my mid-year favorites when I sat down and thought about, and I looked at my library's history, all of the picture books I read in 2024. This was by far my favorite. The illustrations blow me away. I love the illustrations in this book. And this book has been through some rough times. You can tell there's a lot of tape in here that the library has taped, but you can still see the gorgeous illustrations. I just love the palette, the muted palette that the author illustrator used. And basically, it's like a Little Mermaid tale. So again, it's like a fairy tale. I've been really into fairy tale stories lately. So basically, this mermaid wants to find out her life's purpose. All of her sisters are like have all these talents, like singing, and different things, and she doesn't feel like she's good at anything. And that's pretty much the point and the theme of this book. Now, I am very familiar with Disney's The Little Mermaid, but I honestly have not read the original, and that's on my list of things to do soon, to read the original like fairy tale of The Little Mermaid. But this kind of reminds me a little bit of of course they're both based on The Little Mermaid, so, but she finds like these objects and things like that. Now it's not, I don't want to give anything away, but the reason it's called The Mermaid in the Shoe is because she finds a shoe and she wants to know what the shoe is. And that like is part of her interest in like learning and exploring and things like that. And I don't want to give too much away because it's like a picture book, but it's just gorgeous. And it has like a deeper kind of philosophical message underneath about like finding what you love, finding your passion and stuff like that. And I love that. And I just could eat up the illustrations. Like they're just, oh my gosh. I recommend it if you love fairy tale stories and then you love beautiful illustrations. So now I'm going to share my favorite media stuff. So basically, these are my favorite TV shows that I've loved in 2024. A lot of these are rewatches for me. So Gilmore Girls, we're actually rewatching it now. I love it. I adore it. I could, like every couple years I'll rewatch it. Curb Your Enthusiasm, I believe the last season came out this year. So we watched that and then we rewatched it from the beginning. I love Larry David, Curb Your Enthusiasm. And I really loved rewatching the whole series and the new season. And then Downton Abbey, I plan on rewatching it. Actually, I think we watched it at the beginning of the year, and I'm going to rewatch it again after I finish Gilmore Girls. I love Downton Abbey. And then one kind of new discovery for me this year was Abbott Elementary. And pretty much all of these are like usually on like Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, or HBO Max or whatever. That's like the streaming services I usually keep. So Abbott Elementary, I really love it. It's like based on a school. It's like based in an elementary school, and it's like the teachers' lives and stuff like that. It's kind of like a short little comedy, and I thought it was really cute. And then this new show I've discovered, it's called Fisk, Fisk. It's this Australian TV show about this woman who's an attorney who goes to work as like an attorney in this really, really, really tiny law office. And it's just, she's very quirky. She's kind of crass. Maybe she kind of no, she's not like Eileen, but she's kind of crass and she's kind of goofy. And it's just, I thought it was like a really good show, Fisk. And then another one I watched this year for the first time was Kim's Convenience. And I really loved how it's based like in a convenience store. I really like the dynamic between like shows about stores where you get like the customer like relations, and like it's about a family who works in a convenience store, and it's kind of it's like, I wouldn't say it's really quirky. It's kind of just interesting family dynamic with like really great character development. Kim's Convenience. So we watched the whole series. And then Frasier. Oh my gosh. I would say Frasier is probably my favorite. I wasn't into Frasier when it came out, like in the 90s, because, I don't know. I just was like, it was like over my head. I think it's like, of course it's like an adult show. So I really, really, really loved it, watching it like as an adult. And we loved it. My whole family loved it. So we watched Frasier from the beginning to the end, and not the new one, because they have a new one. I haven't watched like the new Frasier yet because it doesn't have all the characters and stuff like that. So I do want to see it eventually, but I don't have it on my streaming services. Okay. So Loudermilk. Oh my gosh. I loved Loudermilk. Unfortunately, it wasn't very long. I think it was only like 2 or 3 seasons, but it's very crass. It's like, it's about this guy called Loudermilk, and he is like a writer kind of, and like he also teaches like an AA class. Well, not teaches, he's like the leader what do you call them? The sponsor or whatever, like a class. So also it's kind of like him and like his roommate and like also people that he like it's just like kind of like crass comedy, but I just really liked him. Like yeah, I really liked Loudermilk. And then so American Housewife and Modern Family, those I didn't like absolutely adore, but we just kind of binge watched them. American Housewife, she's like a non-typical type housewife. She's very funny and she's kind of loud and she doesn't really fit in with all like the proper like kind of, they live in like a rich neighborhood, but they're not rich. And I like that dynamic of like, that juxtaposition. So I really liked American Housewife. And then Modern Family we liked. It's a kind of like drama comedy. I don't know what you call it, but it's like just like the relationships between like a family, like different siblings and like the father and his wife. And I liked it. So another one I really, really liked was Superstore. All of these shows, you guys, are like new to me. I really like Superstore. It kind of reminded me a little bit of Kim's Convenience in the sense that it's based in a store and it really has some quirky characters. Superstore kind of reminded me a lot of like The Office a little bit in like Parks and Recreation with the way the characters are, and like I really, really loved it. I really love Superstore. It's one of my favorites of this year. So we rewatched Schitt's Creek. Really love that. It's funny, quirky. Also, I mentioned already Anne with an E. Okay. So now movies. Like honestly, I don't know what's been happening, but like when I was in my 20s, it felt like I was like discovering a new movie every week or something like that, or like a new movie would come out that was like awesome, or I would discover something from the 90s. It's been like really dead for me with movies like the past decade. Like I haven't connected with hardly anything that's been new that has come out lately. Maybe it's me, but I don't think so, because my husband feels the same way. But so I have like no good movies to share with you guys that are new, like new to me or whatever. So, but I have some movies that I'm looking forward to, and I just thought I'd mention this video because I don't normally talk about movies. So I haven't seen The Boy with the Heron yet, or I'm sorry, The Boy and the Heron by Hayao Miyazaki. We love all of his movies, so I'm really looking forward to seeing The Boy and the Heron when it comes out for me to rent online. Beetlejuice is going to be coming out with a part 2, a sequel, whatever. I'm really looking forward to that, even though I'm so scared. Beetlejuice freaks me out. Like, it's one of those movies I've seen like probably like 5, 6, 10 times, but I don't like watching it in the past like decade because it really freaks me out, because I don't like movies about death and things like that. I guess because I'm like middle age now, I don't know, but I'm really looking forward to see what they're going to do with the second one. It's still one of my favorite movies of all time. I think it's so great. But another movie I'm really looking forward to seeing is, I heard that they're making The Wild Robot, and I really love the Wild Robot series. It's a middle grade series with a robot, and I really love, she's one of my favorite characters. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that. And then I'm also looking forward to seeing A Gentleman in Moscow. Now, that might not be a movie. I don't know if it's a series or a movie, but I read the book, loved it. It's a little bit, it's like more of a kind of like serious, it's like a serious book, and it's like a serious type movie show. Okay, now I'm going to tell you guys about my favorite songs, and then I'm going to go on to my daughter's books. I've really been obsessed with the song Release. It's called Release by Pearl Jam. I like listen to Spotify pretty much every day, and I'm always making playlists and things like that. And Release has been like my anthem. Like, I kind of overlooked it in the 90s, and I believe it came out in the 90s on one of his Pearl Jam's albums in the 90s. I kind of overlooked it because it didn't really get radio play, like a lot of their more like radio type songs. And so I kind of just rediscovered it this year, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's so deep, it's so philosophical, and I could listen to it every day and it become like part of my life. Release by Pearl Jam. The next one is Ride by Lana Del Rey, but you could say all of her songs. So pretty much all of her songs, but I just picked Ride because it's pretty much my favorite. I love the vibe of it, and I love Lana Del Rey. She's become like, gosh, like I could just listen to her. I listen to her all the time on Spotify. Okay, so another song, my favorite song of the year and probably the past 2 years still is Gimme Sympathy by Metric. Metric is my favorite band, and I love Gimme Sympathy. I play that song in my head, like I sing it in my head whenever I'm stressed out or whenever I feel like I want to go to, like I'm trying to go to sleep and I can't. I memorized it, and like I don't usually memorize songs. Like Gimme Sympathy is such a good song. All of their songs are good. And then a new to me, but not new, of course, classic band that I've kind of rediscovered in 2024 are the Beatles. I really like Let It Be, but they have so many good songs. I just kind of like had lost interest in a lot of like older classical like rock and like the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, and you know, I was listening to a lot of modern music for the past decade, but then I rediscovered the Beatles. So now we have my daughter's mid-year favorites. She's going to quickly go over them. There's a theme here. Mythology and Rick Riordan is a common theme. But first we're going to start with 2 Sutherland, Wings of Fire, Legends, Dark Stalker.
So this isn't actually the main series. It's the Legends series, which is like it goes a little bit deeper into the lore of Pyria, which is the...
From Wings of Fire?
Yeah, from Wings of Fire. And it's just kind of like going into one of the characters that was in like the Wings of Fire, but Dark Stalker, who is like a legend. He's like a super powerful magician.
Okay.
And then next up is The Trials of Apollo. I'm currently reading this series by Rick Riordan, and it's about Apollo, who is like, he's transformed into a human, and he has to like try to get back as a god, like, so he isn't human.
And it's Greek mythology?
Yeah, it's Greek mythology.
Okay. And yeah.
This is Percy Jackson's series. It's like, it feels like I started a long time ago, but it's only like, I only started in like January, but like I really love this series, so.
Percy Jackson and Percy Jackson and the Olympians, the Lightning Thief. So this is also Greek mythology.
Yes, and it is by Rick Riordan too.
The next book is
Madness Chase by Rick Riordan. So it's
And the Gods of Asgard.
Yeah, it's a Norse mythology actually, not Greek mythology. And I'm not sure if it's YA or middle grade or something.
I think this one's YA.
Yeah, it just feels a little bit more a little bit less silly than Percy Jackson. It feels a little bit more like.
And the protagonist, is he older?
Yeah, I think that's it.
So this was one of your mid-year favorites, and you said it's Norse mythology.
Yes, by Rick Riordan. And then finally is The Lost Here's to Olympus. It's the first book, and it's like, yeah, it's another one of my favorites. It's very recent. It's probably the most recent out of all of them. I'm actually currently reading it.
It's also Greek mythology, the Heroes of Olympus.
Yeah.
So which one was your favorite series mid-year?
I'd
out of
say
all of these?
Either Madness Chase or Percy Jackson. They're kind of equal, I'd say.
Okay, you guys, thanks so much for watching, subscribing, liking, commenting. Thanks so much for being here. Have a good day or night. Bye.